My name is Joe Figini. I have been a Holy Trinity parishioner since 1990, and I have been a Catholic my entire life. I can't tell you I was always open about being gay here, because I wasn't open about being gay in a lot of places. So I didn't feel the dissonance with the church until I think the social movement moved forward, and the church did not. I read what was coming out of the Vatican about gay people adopting children when I first adopted my son, and it was the most painful thing I can ever remember, talking about gay people visiting evil on children by doing this. I stopped coming to church. And my very persistent Italian mother, it was the only question that she had, and I had to have him baptized. I came here to the chapel at Holy Trinity. The baptism itself was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. But even despite that, I struggled with how to raise my son. My mother would come to visit, and she would always go to Mass, and she always made me go with her. So I said, okay, if I'm going to go to Mass with you, we'll go to Holy Trinity, where I had not been for a long time. We were sitting in the pew, I remember this, like on the left, and they were talking about religious education, and she leaned over and said, before I die, would you please allow Isaac, that's my son's name, to have his first Holy Communion? And like every good, diligent Italian son, I want to make Mama happy. So I went to meet with Judith Brousseau, who's the head of religious education.
In some respects, we're a last resort church before people really throw in the towel and say, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. So when someone comes and said, I want to be here, as someone who works in the field for Christ, you have to say you're welcome, you belong here. And I really feel that.
No, she said, please show up. We need you. If you don't show up, we are never going to change. This is your church. My non-Catholic spouse has been around Holy Trinity enough, and has enough people he knows, that when we were not sure my son should continue in his public school, came to me and said, I want him to go to Holy Trinity. Everything I've heard about this school is exactly the kind of education I want my son to have, and is exactly the kind of person I want my son to be. And so I'll fast forward, we start school, and the parents in the school came up to me and were like, we are so glad you're here. Every time that I had a moment of doubt, I feel like, God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit put the words in somebody's mouth to reassure me that I belong. All of us, in some way, probably feel marginalized, no matter what our experience is. It doesn't have to be gay, it could be lots of things. And I think at this church, they talk about that, they accept that, they explore that, and they welcome that. And I actually believe most Catholics share that view. Somewhere in them, they hear the words of Christ, love your fellow man. Christ loved people and welcomed people who were marginalized and celebrated them. I think this church and that teaching is deep and is strong and is broader than most people think.